Look at the photograph. A man in a ragged, filthy uniform, hair disheveled, hands bound. He looks like a beggar. Beside him stands a young soldier in a clean uniform. This is not a staged movie set. This is the last photograph ever taken of Ernesto Che Guevara alive. And the man standing next to him? He is not a friend. He is not a Bolivian guard. He is a Cuban-American CIA operative named Félix Rodríguez. In less than 2 hours, Rodríguez will relay the order to execute the most famous revolutionary on the planet, but he will not walk away empty-handed. Before the blood dries, the CIA agent will strip a Rolex watch from Che Guevara's wrist, a trophy he still shows off to this day. Most people think Che died in a glorious battle. He did not. He died in a dirty schoolhouse, executed by a nervous sergeant, under the watch of a man who made it his life's mission to destroy him. This is the story of the hunter and the hunted, the CIA operative who caught Che Guevara and got a medal for it. To understand this moment, you have to understand the hatred. This was not politics. It was personal. Félix Rodríguez was born into a wealthy land-owning family in Cuba. His uncle was a government minister. When Fidel Castro and Che Guevara took power in 1959, Rodríguez's world was erased. He fled the country. But he did not move on with his life. He went to war. He joined a group of Cuban exiles trained by the CIA, the infamous Brigade 2506. He secretly entered Cuba weeks before the disastrous Bay of Pigs invasion to gather intelligence. When the invasion failed, he was stranded. He barely avoided capture, fleeing to Venezuela and later back to Miami. He considered himself a soldier at war with Fidel Castro. He even volunteered to assassinate Castro with a telescopic rifle, but Castro was untouchable. Che Guevara was not. October 8, 1967. A 4-hour firefight erupted in a ravine. Che was trapped. His M2 carbine jammed. A bullet disabled his pistol. Another shot ripped through his calf. Bolivian rangers closed in around him. The great revolutionary threw up his hands. "Don't shoot. I am Che Guevara, and I am worth more alive than dead." He was wrong about that too. They dragged him to a small abandoned schoolhouse in the village of La Higuera. They tied his hands and feet. He had no boots, only pieces of leather strapped to his feet. The next morning, Félix Rodríguez walked into the room. The Cuban exile stood face to face with the architect of his country's ruin. Che refused to speak to the Bolivian officers. But Rodríguez leaned in. He told Che he was not there to interrogate him. He wanted to talk. Put yourself in that room. The air is thick. 2 men from the same island, standing on opposite sides of the Cold War. Rodríguez walked back into the schoolhouse. He looked down at Che. "Comandante," he said quietly. "I tried." Che understood immediately. His face went pale. But he did not beg. He did not break. "It's better this way," Che replied. "I should have never been captured alive." He gave Rodríguez one final message for his wife back in Cuba. Tell her to remarry. Tell her to try to be happy. Before leaving the room, Rodríguez did 2 things. He asked a pilot to take a photograph of him with the doomed man. And he took Che's Rolex watch from his wrist. Red and blue bezel, steel case. A physical piece of his enemy, claimed as a prize of war. Rodríguez stepped outside. He transmitted the execution order to the Bolivian soldiers. But he had one final instruction. Do not shoot him in the face. The wounds needed to look like combat injuries. The cover story depended on it. A young Bolivian sergeant named Mario Terán was chosen for the job. He had requested the assignment personally. 3 of his friends had been killed in earlier firefights with Che's guerrillas. He wanted revenge. Terán walked into the schoolhouse. Che stood up. He stood at full attention. He looked the soldier directly in the eyes and spoke his final words. "Know that you are killing a man." "Shoot." "Damn it." Terán raised his M2 carbine. He fired. The revolutionary who wanted to set the world on fire bled out on a dirt floor. 39 years old, in a village the world had never heard of. Félix Rodríguez boarded the helicopter. Che's body was lashed to the skid. In the town of Vallegrande, the body was laid out in a hospital laundry room and displayed to journalists. Eyes open, hands bound. Then, to eliminate any possibility of denial, his hands were cut off. They were sent to Buenos Aires for fingerprint verification. His body was buried in an unmarked grave. The Bolivian government told the world he had died in battle from his wounds. The CIA told a different story internally. CIA Director Richard Helms sent a classified memo to the Secretary of State, the Secretary of Defense, and the White House. He stated it clearly. Guevara had been captured alive. He had been in fair condition. He had been executed on direct order from the Bolivian High Command. President Johnson's National Security Advisor, Walt Rostow, reviewed the memo and called the decision to kill Guevara stupid. The memo was filed. The world was told he died in battle. Che Guevara became a martyr overnight. His face was printed on millions of t-shirts. Meanwhile, the man who oversaw his death went back to work. Vietnam, Ecuador, El Salvador. More than 300 helicopter combat missions. The CIA awarded him the Intelligence Star for valor, its highest honor for field operations. For a man who walked into a schoolhouse in Bolivia, transmitted the execution order, gave instructions on where to shoot, and flew home with a dead man's watch. But the story did not end in 1967. In the 1980s, Rodriguez surfaced again, running illegal Contra supply operations under the alias Max Gomez. That operation became part of the Iran-Contra scandal. He was photographed shaking hands with Vice President George H.W. Bush. Congress questioned him. He was never charged with anything. Then came September 16, 2021. In a Florida museum, Governor Ron DeSantis stood before a crowd. He pinned the Medal of Freedom, the state's highest civilian honor, onto the chest of Félix Rodríguez, honoring his, quote, meritorious contribution to the cause of freedom, an American medal, for the man who pulled the strings in a dirty Bolivian schoolhouse 54 years earlier. History is rarely clean. The survivors write it. And sometimes the survivor is the one still wearing the dead man's watch.